Hi everyone, today I'd like to share a DIY project that I recently did, which was a headboard makeover. I've been looking for a headboard for a number of years and I finally found one, thankfully. So this was actually just to outline my project. I actually picked up the headboard for a really great price at my local Habitat for Humanity restore. So I was very happy. And all I did was when I started out was I actually washed it with just a little soap and water and dried it off. And as you can see, this was just kind of to show you what the headboard looked like. And it was a basic headboard. It was dark, so I had to repaint it. So that was an interesting task in itself because I've never done a project like this by myself. So it was fun and it was quite creative. So I just started out again, like I said, I cleaned the headboard really well with a little soap and water and I dried it off and I had to prime it. So the primer that we had laying around the house was like a kind of like a beige color. So since the headboard was a little dark, I had to prime it twice, which was fine. And that was kind of fun. It was different. I actually primed it with a small foam roller and uh, and a paintbrush to get into the corners. But it was pretty basic, pretty straightforward. I'm sorry for all the shadowing because I actually did this under our little lattice patio, so I had shade. But this is actually to show you what it looked like when it was done. As you can see, it did take after 2 prime coats. And this was all the supplies that I needed to actually paint it. So I used a standard paintbrush, 3M painter's tape, which I loved, and rubber gloves. And an old paint pan, which as you can see is very well loved. So what I ended up doing I also found this, which was a Valspar Project Perfect, and it says that it's a gloss coat, but when I painted it, it was a little different. I actually purchased one prior to, and I had to go back and buy a lighter color. So what I learned was, which was easy for me, was if I put a bag over the paint pan, I could just put my paint in there and I would like make less of a mess. This was just showing you the foam roller. You can actually pick up these foam rollers anywhere. You can actually pick them up even if you're on a budget at your local 99-cent store or Dollar Tree. So I actually painted it twice. This was actually, I think, the first coat because as I mentioned, since it was a darker wood, it did take a little bit for it to pick up the actual coat. So I did it twice and it came out pretty well actually. I was very happy with it. I was very happy with the outcome. The actual paint itself is very nice. It glides on easy and I was very happy. I may have to write Valspar a letter. So this was just basically where I stopped. I just kind of did that, and these were all the supplies that I used. So I actually went again to my local Lowe's, and they had the little paint samples on super sale, so I picked up a couple of those. I had foam brushes. I raided my arts and crafts box for everything that I could think of that I wanted to use. And it's pretty simple. I just kind of let myself do whatever I wanted to do. And as you can see, these were the paint samples, and they were really nice. As I mentioned, I picked them up at my local Lowe's on super sale. They were like 99 cents a little sample. So when they have sales, check it out. And then this was just general stuff that I had, like arts and crafts paint, acrylic paint, and I had picked up that high gloss paint at Michael's when I picked up my stencils, which we'll see in a second. And of course, standard little foam plates and all my stuff. So these stencils were actually very nice. I really did like them. I actually picked up a smaller set because they had the flower that I wanted, and those actually are self-adhesive. So those are really great, and I really love them. They were really easy to use. And these are a larger set, but they weren't self-adhesive, so I had to tape them. So we'll see that later on. But again, it had the elements that I was looking for, which was more of like a tropical theme. So I really did like them, and they were really easy to use. This was actually the first stencil that I used, which was the large one. So as you can see, it's like a big fern leaf, and it had a couple of other leaves with it. So I just used a standard 3M tape, and I taped it to the headboard. And this was just kind of my idea of trying to sketch out where I wanted it to be so I could see it. And I actually used just a standard drawing number 4 pencil. It sort of worked, but it was just kind of my idea to give myself a guide of where I wanted my actual leaf to go, because like I said, I've never done anything like this before myself. So all in all, it worked out pretty good. Granted, the paint that I used kind of was a trial and error because as I said, I've never done stenciling before. So I used paint brushes and I also used foam brushes. And depending on the consistency of the paint, I noticed each brush or foam brush that I used gave it a different consistency and like a different texture. So it's a little different. As I said, it's a little trial and error. But for something that I did, at least I feel like I accomplished something, which is pretty good. So this was the final project portion for that day because it got too hot, so I had to come inside. And all in all, I let it dry and I just kind of went over a few day process to try to finish out what exactly I wanted. And as I said, it was kind of trial and error. And this was just an example to show you what the stencil looked like when you actually used a paintbrush. And I think that came out a little better. I didn't really realize that these stencils needed a particular style brush when you use them because, as I mentioned, I've never used stencils before in this sense. So I really didn't know that until after I opened the package and I was like, oh, okay. So it's a learning process again. But all in all, I was very happy with it. I was very happy with using the stencils, and I know that they will come in handy in the future. And I had tried a couple, as you can see, a couple different stencils along the top, and I just didn't like them. So the best part is I recommend that you do have a wet rag near you so you can go ahead and wipe off the paint if they don't come out the way you like them, or if it comes out a little crooked, as we'll see in just a second. So you can go ahead and wipe it down. And that's the nice part about this Valspar paint is apparently you can wipe it down with soap and water and it won't take the paint off, which I noticed, which was really, really great. So I kind of tried to clean it up a little bit, didn't quite come out the way I wanted it to. So I went ahead and I um, just wiped off the paint because it was still moist. So that really does come in handy. And since it was acrylic paint, it was really easy to take off. And I just kind of did, as I said, it's a process. You kind of have to figure out what you want and what meets your needs. And all in all, it worked pretty well. And then I just decided to go again with the fern leaves because it was just easier for me because they were larger. So those stencils, the larger stencils, are really, really great. I really had a field day though with the stencils that were the self-adhesive sticky stencils, which was a smaller set. We'll see those in a second. This was all the supplies that I pulled out when I started to do all the other things for when I started to add the other smaller stencils and whatever else I thought I wanted to add to the headboard. So I pulled out all my arts and crafts supplies. And these little stencils, these were the first set of Martha Stewart stencils, and they were smaller. And I really did like them because they're self-adhesive, so they stick to where you stick them, which is great. And they're really easy to use. I used them again, like I said, with the foam brush and a paintbrush. So either way, they worked really, really well. And they're really easy to clean, and they're really easy to take off the surface that you're using them with. Granted, if you're using gloves, it may be a little tougher. Like I had a little bit of a problem, but they still work really, really well, and I really like them. So you just peel them off, and there's your design. Granted, I needed a little cleanup, but other than that, it comes out really, really nice, and I was very, very happy with the products, with the stencils in general. Those are really great because you can wash them off and then you just stick them back on the little plastic that they come on and you can put them away. So this is actually what sort of what the end looked like. So I just kind of did various colors of flowers and a couple of other little things that I threw in there, and that was just showing you my rag at the end of my process because I was cleaning up so much that it really does come in handy to have a wet rag near you so you can pick up or clean up your little mistakes. And then this was just what it looked like, the final, when I finished it. And then after that, I actually applied a polyurethane spray to it, which we'll see in just a second. And all in all, it didn't look too bad. I thought it came out okay. And these were the supplies that I needed for the polyurethane spray. You need your polyurethane spray, your gloves, and goggles. I also recommend that you use a mask because it smells really bad, and that you go ahead and you use it in a well-ventilated area. That actually was a clear coat, so it was a little hard to tell when I was finished when it didn't really give it a gloss. It was just a little hard to tell. So there I am with my goggles, oh so neat. And then I also put on a mask, which you'll see in just a second because that polyurethane spray is quite powerful. And so all in all, I was very happy. I just went ahead and sprayed it like you usually would, like spray paint. And I did, I think, 3 or 4 coats to make sure that I had it completely done. And then this is what my headboard looks like as the final result once it was in my room. So all in all, it was a learning process. It was quite fun. I feel like I did something for myself, and it was something creative. So thanks for watching.